Welcome you all to my today's session. Today I am going to do a short lecture of the course unit of operational management, that is introduction of operational management. First, before moving into the session, let me explain you about the learning outcomes of today's session. So after completion of this session, you should be able to explain major historical development of operational management, explain the different approaches of operational management, and explain the production system concept and describe it using the different type of examples. And finally, after completion of this session, you should be able to describe relationship between production function and other organizational functions. Then we can move to the session. First, we have to understand as the introduction of this session, as the introduction of operational management, we have to understand what is operational management. So, it is better if we have to first understand the meaning of operations. Then we know operations is that part of business organization that is responsible for producing goods and or services. So goods are physical items that include raw materials, parts, sub-assemblies such as motherboard that go into computers, and final products such as cell phone and automobiles, like that. So service are activities that provide some combination of time, location, or physical value. Example of goods and services are found all around us, all around you. So every book you read, every video you watch, every email you send, every telephone conversation you have, and every medical treatment you receive involve the operations function of one or more organizations. So does everything you wear, eat, travel in, sit on, and access the internet with? The operations function in business can also be viewed from a more far-reaching perspective. So the collective success or failure of companies' operation functions has an impact on the ability of nation to compete with other nations and on the nation's economy also. So then when we understand the meaning of this operational management, I have given you two important definitions. Two important definitions. First one, Bennett in 1996 as defined, OM is concerned with the efficient conversion of an organization's resource into the goods and services that it has been set up to provide. And similar to this one, also Waters in 1991 defined OM this way. So OM is concerned with all activities involved in making a product or providing a service. It is responsible for the transformation of various kind of inputs to useful output. So anyway, to understand the meaning of operational management, so anyway, we can get the clear idea from these two definitions However, to understand the meaning of production and operation management, first we have to know production and operational management is the process. It is the process which combines and transforms various resources used in the production subsystem of organization into value-added production or service. So therefore, OM is part of organization which is concerned with the transformation of a range of inputs into the required outputs or expected output that are products or services. So we can say the set of interrelated management activities which are involved in manufacturing certain product is called as production management. If the same concept is extended to service management, then the corresponding set of management activities is called as operations management. So then, based on these given informations, very simply, right, we can identify OM is the management of an organization's productive resource, so its production system, which converts input into products or services. Essence line adding value. That is the importance of this operations management. That means through the final product or services, customer can get the value added regarding that service or product. Then next we move to the next subtopic, that is historical evolution of operational management. So anyway, when we understand in this historical evolution of operational management, so we know for over 2 centuries, operations and production management has been recognized as an important factor in economics, or important factor in a country's economic growth. So then when we focus in the historical evolution of OM, first is named very early. It named as manufacturing management. Next, it converted to its shift as the production management name, and currently its name or this area is recognized as operations management. So when we try to understand in little bit descriptions about these three names or these three sections, that mean the manufacturing management, production and operation management. The first, when we considering the manufacturing management name or the this manufacturing management name, that is the traditional view, right? The traditional view of manufacturing management, and it's also begun in 18th century. 18th century, when Adam Smith recognized the economic benefits of specialization of labor. We know he recognized breaking of job down into sub-tasks and recognizes workers to specialized tasks in which they would become highly skilled and efficient. In the early 20th century, F.W. Taylor implemented Smith's theories and developed scientific management. From then till 1930, many techniques were developed revealing the traditional view. Then after this period, that manufacturing name also converted as the production management, because production management becomes the acceptable terms from 1930s to 1930 to 1950. As Frederick W. Taylor works become more widely known, managers developed techniques that focused on economic efficiency in manufacturing. Workers were studied in great deal with to eliminate wasteful efforts and achieve greater efficiency. At the same time, psychologists, socialists, and other social scientists began to study people and human behavior in the working environment. In addition, economists, mathematicians, and computer socialists contributed never more sophisticated analytical approaches. So then this period, they used this area, they recognized this area as production management area. Then next, that means that with the 1970s emerged two distinct change in our view. The most obvious of these reflected in the new name, operations management, was a shift to the service and manufacturing sector of the economy. Because as service sector become more prominent, the change from production to operations. It was because production was changed to the operations as customers highly accepting the service sector. So then we can say as service sector became more prominent, the change of production to operations emphasized the extending our field to service organizations. And same as more suitable change was the beginning of the emphasis on synthesis rather than just analysis in management practices. Then hereafter, for this area, everyone used name product operations management instead of production management. Then this is the way how these three names developed, or historically evolution of this, the name of the production manufacturing management to the operations management. And next, you need to understand in this session how historical development of operations management. Anyway, the historical developments that impacted evolution of operational management can be described under these main categories. These five main these five main categories. First one is the Industrial Revolution. Second, scientific management. Then historical development of OM came to the HR movement, and next decision making and management science stage, and finally historical development of OM came to the computer age. So shall we look one by one? So then first, when we focus in the Industrial Revolution, the Industrial Revolution had a significant impact on the way products are produced today. So before this time, products were made by hand, by mm, skilled craft people in their shops or homes. Each product was unique and made by one person. The Industrial Revolution changed all that because it started in the 1770s with the development of a number of inventions that depend on machine power instead of human power. So the most important of this was the steam engine, which was invented by James Watt in 1764. The steam engine provided the new source of power that was used to replace human labor in textile molds, machine making plant, and other facilities. The concept of factory was emerging. In addition to steam engine, led to advance in transportation, such as railroads that allowed for a wider distribution of goods. And further, in the same time, the concept of division of labor was introduced, first described by Adam Smith in 1776 in The Wealth of Nation. This concept would become one of the important ideas behind the development of the assembly line. So, division of labor means that the production of a good is broken down into a series of small elements or tasks, right? Each of which is performed by different workers. The repetition of the tasks allowed to workers to become highly specialized in that task. So division of labor allowed higher volumes to be produced, which coupled with the advance in transportation of steam-powered boats and railroads opened up distant markets. So after that, a few years later, in 1790, L.E. Whitney introduced the concept of interchangeable parts. Prior to that time, every part used in the production process was unique. Interchangeable parts are standardized so that every item in a batch of items fits equally. That concept means that we could move from one at a time production to volume of production. So those things basically have happened in this industrial revolution period. So then development of, when adding those things to this production operations management field, it little bit developed, and then this subject moved to the developed as the scientific management period. So scientific management was an approach to management promoted by Frederick W. Taylor at the turn of the 20th century. So Taylor was an engineer with an eye for efficiency. Through scientific management, he showed to increase worker productivity and organizational output. His concept had two key features. First one is, first it assumed that workers are motivated only by money and are limited only by their physical ability. So Taylor believed that worker productivity is governed by scientific laws and that it is up to management to discover these laws through measurement. Measurement, not only measurement, analysis and observations. So, workers are to be paid in the direct proportion to how much they produce. That is that was his first concern. Then the second feature of his approach was the separation of the planning and doing function in a company, which means the separation of management and labor. So management is responsible for designing productive system and determining acceptable worker output. Workers have no input into this process. They are permitted only to work. But many people didn't like the scientific management approach, especially workers, who thought the management used this method to unfairly increase output without paying them accordingly. Still, many companies adopted the scientific management approach. Today, many view of scientific management as the major influence in the field of operational management. Also, Taylor introduced a widely used method of work measurement, stopwatch time study. So in this stopwatch time studies, observation are made and recorded of a worker performing a task over many cycles. So this information is then used to set a time standard for performing the particular task. So this method is still used today to set a time standard for the short repetitive tasks. So then also in this period, scientific management approach was popularized by Henry Ford, who used the techniques in his factory. So combining technology with scientific management, Ford introduced the moving assembly line to produce Ford cars. So Ford also combined scientific management with the division of labor and interchangeable parts to develop the concept of mass production. So these concepts and innovations helped him increase production and efficiency at his factories. So these main things, these important things already have happened in this scientific management period, and after that it was moved to the human relations and behaviorism period. So scientific management movement and its philosophy dominated in the early 20th century. However, this changed with the publication of result of the Hawthorne studies. So the purpose of Hawthorne studies was to study the effect of environmental changes, such as changing in lighting and room temperature on the productivity of assembly line workers. The findings from the study were unexpected. The productivity of the workers continue to increase regardless the environmental changes made. So Elton Mayo concluded that workers were actually motivated by the attention they were given. The idea of workers responding to the attention they are given came to be known as the Hawthorne effect. The study of these findings by many sociologists and psychologists lead to the human relations movement, and entirely new philosophy based on the recognition that functions other than money can contribute to worker productivity. And also another thing is, important thing is in this period, job enlargement. Job enlargement is an approach in which workers are given a large proportion of the total tasks to do. So another approach to given more meaning to jobs is job enrichment, in which workers are given a greater role in planning. So recent studies have shown that environmental factors in the workplace, such as adequate lighting and good ventilation, can have a major impact on productivity. So in this human relations and behaviorism period, X and theory Y approach also introduced by Douglas McGraw. So these are the major contributions that were happened, or that that we have seen in the human relations and behaviorism period. And next, the in operations management development process, evolution of development. Next period was decision model and management science period. So decision models and management science focused on developing quantitative techniques for solving operations problem. The first mathematical model for inventory, mathematical model for inventory management was developed by F.W. Harris in 1930. Shortly thereafter, statistical sampling theory and quality control procedures were developed. And further, many QT, quantitative techniques tools emerged to solve problems in forecasting, inventory control, project management, and other areas. And also, mathematical oriented field management science provide operations management with tools to assist in decision making. So these are the major contributions of this period. And finally, the process of historical development of operation management, it came to the computer age. Then in the time period of this age is in 1970s or after 1970. The use of computers in business became widespread. So with computers, many of quantitative technique models developed by the period of developed by the management science. Developed by the management science could be employed in large scale. Data processing became easier with important affecting areas such as forecasting, scheduling, and inventory management. So, a particularly important computerized system material requirements planning was developed for inventory control and scheduling under this computer age. And today, the exponential growth in computing capability continues to impact operational management. So just some Japanese concept like just in time also contributed in this period. So just in time is the major operations management philosophy developed in Japan in the 1985s that is designed to achieve high volume production, use minimal amount of inventory. Like that, there are several other Japanese concepts also have introduced in this age. So that is the way, or that is the way how historical development of operational management has happened. That means the historical development of operational management has gone through these 5 periods, right? Industrial revolution period and scientific management and HR movement and decision-making management science, and now it came to the computer age. So that is the way how the subject or area is developed, and then under the introduction. Under the introduction of this session, next you need to understand organizational functions. That is another subtopic in this session. So when we try to understand in the, here there is different wording, unnecessary word in here. So I need to delete that one. These are the 3 organizational functions. Okay, so then the ideal situation for a business organization is to achieve a match to supply and demand. So we know having excess supply or excess capacity is wasteful and costly, maybe costly. Having too little means lost too little, that means lost opportunity and possible customer dissatisfaction. Okay, so the key function on supply side, the operations and supply chain, and sales and marketing on the demand marketing on the demand side. That means so what I want to tell you, the key function on the supply side are operations and supply chain, and same as the sales and marketing are the key function of demand side. So while the operations function is responsible for producing product and delivering services, it needs the support and input from other areas of the organization. So business organizations have three basic function areas such as marketing, operations, and finance. So anyway, it doesn't matter whether the business is retail store or hospital, a manufacturing firm, a car wash, or some other type of business. Anyway, all business organizations have these three basic functions. So we know the finance is responsible for securing financial resource at favorable prices and allocating those resources throughout the organization, as well as budgeting, analyzing investment proposals, and providing funds for operations like that. All these tasks or responsibilities have to do finance section. And marketing and operations are the primary or line functions. So marketing is responsible for assessing consumer wants and needs, and selling and promoting the organization's goods or services, organization's product or services. Operations is responsible for producing the goods or providing the services offered by the organization. So then we know to put this into perspective, it is a business organization where a car operation would be its engine. And just as the engine is the core of what a car does, in the business organization, operations is the core of what the organization does. So operations management is responsible for managing that core. So therefore, hence we can say operations management is the management system or process that create good and provide services. So then all these three functions should interrelated with together: marketing, operations, and finance. So then next you have to understand the concept of production system concept or production system approach. Then before understanding the direct clear meaning about the production system, so just I want to explain you so how the production system, right? How the production system arise. So because operations and supply chain are linked, and no business organization could exist without both. That means operation and supply chain. So we know the supply chain is the sequence of organizations, their facilities, function, and activities that are involved in producing and delivering a product or service. The sequence begins with basic suppliers of raw materials and extend all the way to the final customer. So facilities might include warehouse, factories, processing centers, office, distribution centers, and retail outlets. So function and activities include forecasting, purchasing, inventory management, information management, quality assurance, scheduling, production, distribution, delivery, and customer service. So anyway, in the production system, we know there are three main components: inputs, conversion process, and output. So anyway, the supply chains are both external and internal to the organization. external part of the supply chain provide raw materials, parts, equipment, suppliers, and no other inputs to the organization. And they deliver outputs that are goods to the organization's customers. The internal part of supply chain are part of the operations function itself, supplying operations with parts and materials, performing work on products and services, and passing the work on to the next step in the process. And certain of goods, anyway, then producing, or we can say the creation, right? The creation of goods or services, producing goods or services involves transforming or converting inputs into the output. Various inputs such as capital, labor, information are used to create goods or services using one or more process, transformation process or conversion process. As an example, storing, transporting, repairing, like that. So to ensure that the desired outputs are obtained, an organization takes measurement at various points in the transformation process. That is feedback. Okay. And then compare with the previously established stands to determine whether corrective action is needed or not. That means control part. Okay. So anyway, in this production system, you can understand there are three main components. One is the input, then the next conversion process, so transformation process, and output. So some example. So we can say some examples of inputs, right? So for the some we can say examples for inputs like land, because land is one kind of input. Human, also the input. So maybe the human physical labor, right? Or they are another the human physical labor or intellectual labor, or capital, raw material like water, metal, wood, okay, and some equipment may be the inputs like machine, computers, tools, vehicles, and also facilities like hospitals, factories, retail stores, energy, or other things like information, time, legal construction, government regulation. All these things are example for the inputs. And also we can say some examples as for the transformation or the conversion process, cutting, drilling, transporting, teaching, also the transformation thing, process, farming, mixing, packing, analyzing, developing, researching, repairing, selling, innovating, right? Or searching, developing. All these things can be the transformation process. For the example, for the transformation process. And also we know the outputs, right? We can say goods like houses, automobiles, vehicle, no, clothes, computers, machine, television, food products, type of food, textiles, CD players, like that. And also the outputs can be the services. Okay, output can be the services like as some examples: healthcare, entertainment, car repair, legal services, banking services, communication. All these things also we can understand as the output, service output. So anyway, all these inputs, conversion process, and the output depend according to the desired or expected output. But what is the expected output that customer want? According to that, what are the required inputs and what is the conversion process also depend. Anyway, this is look at this picture, right? In also through this picture also it present the system, right? Production system very clearly. In here you can see the inputs. As the inputs we can understand the so as an examples of inputs, main machine, technology, finance, data are given here. All these things are resources. Then we know resources are the inputs. Then next it's happened that when we input the required inputs to the process, then the conversion process can be happen or transformation process, right? And next, after transforming or conversion process, it delivered the goods, information, service like any outputs, right? Outputs to the customer, right? So outputs need to customers. And after they got the outputs, that means after sales service, right? Through the customer response, then that means based on their feedback, then organization also can check whether their product is at the standard level or not. Right? All these things can do. Then feedback can be taken from the customers, and the organization can use the control process. So this is the picture of the clear picture for the system, right? Production system. So anyway, the system approach also can be applied for the service, right? Not only the product or good, right? But also we can use this approach for the services. As an example, you can suppose the system is hospital. If the system is hospital, so as the inputs we can say patient, doctors, nurses, medicine, labs, building, operation theaters, right? So on. All these things we can consider as inputs in the hospital, system of hospital. Then conversion process or transformation process of the service system is pure disease. And finally, as the output, the system produces the healthy person. Healthy person, right? So, then in today's session, right? That means within this given, within this short period, right? As in here, I have explained you the most important sections you need to understand under the introduction section. So can I go back to the again learning outcomes of this session? That means, so I think now you can, right? You can, or you have a, you can, you able to you able to define or explain the meaning of operational management and explain the major historical development of operational management. And also you know different approaches of OM, and also you can explain the concept of system, right? Production system concept with some examples. And also you have understand the organizational functions, right? 3 main organizational functions. So then now we have come to the end of this short session, that is introduction of operational management. So thank you for your participation in this session, and I will meet you with another session in next day. Thank you again.